Go. Okay. It is, I believe, 7:02, we'll say. We will open the Finance Committee meeting for Tuesday, January 9th. Just a reminder, we are being taped for future broadcast on cable and the town website. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Happy New Year. First on the agenda is a free cash update. I got the stuff out late today, but you should have, the first couple pages of your packet should have the information.
You do, and if you don't have them, I had printed them out for you.
Thank you.
I think some of you probably heard this presentation from the board. I feel very low here. It's like the Harry Potter all over. Not Harry Potter, It's a Wonderful Life. Pottles.
George Bailey and Potter.
It is Potter.
Potter.
Yeah.
Don't be showing a sign of your age there.
I know the reference. I know the reference.
Thank
I've got it, yes.
Thank you. We did have a successful year end. We had our exit conference, the second selectmen meeting of December, and I did thank publicly, and I will again, all the departments for their help and cooperation in closing out the year. We did submit the balance sheet in end of September, beginning of October, in which free cash was certified. I was asked to run through these, and I will just run through the highlights. As you know, we have to close the year. And we submit a balance sheet to the Department of Revenue, and then they certify free cash. It's not free and it's not cash. It's basically what I consider like a tax return that we file at the state, which shows the turnbacks that departments have turned back, the amount of money that we collected in excess of what we said we were going to get in revenues, and any extraordinary items that happened during the year. And there were a couple that I highlighted in here. So the basic numbers are the turnbacks from the departments as well as the estimated receipts over what we said we're going to collect. And the FY17 estimated local receipt variance was $624,056, and the turnbacks were $598,098. And I did give examples of some of the categories there. Miscellaneous revenue is something we always budget at zero, because we don't, other than E-rates, it's the only recurring miscellaneous revenue that we get. Last year, we had, I don't know if you remember the HVAC fire we had here, we received some money from the insurance reimbursement account. The Municipal Modernization Act changed during FY17, where they increased the threshold to $150,000. So I had to put this money someplace. And what I was going to do is I was going to transfer the money from this account to another capital project, and DRR says you can't do that. So we had to close it into free cash and then have it transferred to the subsequent town meeting from free cash out. So that $80,680 is really just, coming from that account to free cash, and then when we did appropriate it out at the fall town meeting. If you look at the bottom, you'll notice that the free cash represents 5.63% of the operating budget. What we like to see is 5%. In addition, because we use $600,000 from free cash to fund the FY18 operating budget, we really wanted to make sure that we had at least that amount of money in free cash. The other piece that makes up is they look at the receivables. And last year, I think we touched base on it maybe February and March. We did a tax lien receivable sale, which means we sold our tax liens to a company. What happened when that happened, though, is we advertised it and people came in and paid their taxes. So now your receivables went down in FY17. So when they're comparing 16 to 17, the receivables are down. In addition, the interest from the tax title that we weren't collecting came in FY17. So I always caution people to look at the stories behind the numbers. I know it sounds like 1.5 million is a lot of money, but there were some extraordinary things that happened in FY17 that kind of helped, and we were very happy it helped this number to be what it is. There are the estimated receipts. Motor vehicle is $328,000 more than we said it was going to be, but and you'll see this trend analysis when I go through, we are over $1 million in motor vehicle. But at some point, that's going to trickle down. People's cars are going to age, and unless they continue to buy them, that's going to go down again. There's going to be a downward trend. So we are, and I know I say this a lot to Ryan, prudently conservative with our estimated receipts, but these are just some of the highlights. The next two pages following that are the FY17 general fund revenue. This gives the revenue on the general fund and a little more analysis and detail. So it shows you what the actual receipts came in at, so you can take a look at that. If you have any questions, you can let me know.
Gene, how come the excise taxes in particular, the motor vehicle excise taxes, were so much higher than anticipated?
Well, we budget at, I don't think I have the tax. I think we budgeted 900 and some odd thousand, we're up
Mhm.
over $1 million. That is our largest estimated receipts. Now, I don't think any of you remember Strategic Budget Committee? None of you were ever a member. What the Strategic Budget Committee had set forth as part of their policy is that we would increase the estimated receipts by 2% each year. So we aren't increasing motor vehicle to where it is now, but again, that's an account you have to be careful of, because as the cars age, that receipt will go down, your excise tax bill will go down.
But assuming everybody cycles their cars out,
But you can't assume that. That's a big assumption.
Because
Mine's
we've
paid off
seen
and-
it drop too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
really.
Especially as the economy goes,
The
probably, right?
economy
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah,
they
you
keep
see
the
that.
Yeah,
cars
people
stay
hang on to
longer.
their vehicles
I can see
longer.
that.
Dependent
Right.
on the interest that they,
in a downturn in the economy.
Yep.
Okay,
So-
all right. Okay,
And you'll see this in the budget book, because I just finished it and it's on Matt's desk, the estimated receipts, you'll see at least the 9-year trend to motor vehicle. That is the largest estimated receipt component.
what's the 9-year trend? Is it upward?
It is upward,
Okay, and it's above the 2%.
it is above the 2%.
So theoretically, let's say with a good economy, theoretically, next year you're gonna budget just 2% higher than estimated or than actual?
Estimated.
Yeah, okay. And so theoretically, there's a nice little bump.
Just
year
remember,
round.
you use $600,000 of free cash, so you can't.
No, I'm just trying to
I-
understand.
No, I understand that, but
Okay.
what I don't want people to hear is
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
can increase that number, spend more.
Yeah, I got it.
And have more money in the budget, because we've already had that 600,000 built in, so we have to have at least the amount of money that we use from free cash turned back from when we close the books.
When you say built in, you mean built into what we're forwarding or almost loaning to the next fiscal year, correct?
For FY18,
Yeah, okay,
we
okay.
transferred 600,000 from free cash to the operating budget.
Okay,
So we have to make sure we
Yep.
close with at least that amount of money. So the two biggest areas, again, are the turnbacks, which
Yeah.
you can't count on,
sure.
because, you have to assume that everybody's gonna be spending their budget. Now, the biggest turnback we had last year was the health insurance.
Mhm.
And again, just to remind you, we went to the high deductible plan in FY17. So the health insurance was budgeted based on the 16 census and the number of lives and the coverages that we had then. We did have some people that chose to get off our health insurance because we went to a high deductible plan.
Mhm.
Now that's leveled off for FY18 because we budget on the actual census from 17 to 18.
You said 5% is is what you try to keep it, the free cash.
We do
amount.
try to figure 5% in both stabilization and free cash.
What would be too high? When would you think that it was?
Again,
10%?
this is an extraordinary amount because 598,000 was turnbacks. So, I wouldn't have even, if it wasn't for the health insurance piece, we would have been below that. And that's something that was really unplanned, I guess, because we didn't know our open enrollment is in May. So when we do the budget in March, we don't know what people are gonna do for their personal health insurance.
At what percent would you think the percentage is too high?
Of free cash?
10, right? Like 10%. It should
Yeah.
be between 5 and 10. That's what
Yeah,
the
I
auditor
guess
was
over
saying.
10 would
Right.
be too high. I don't think we'll be in that position. The other thing is, we do utilize free cash the following year. So even if, towards the operating budget, if people wanted to make the argument, well, you're conservative on your receipts, but we allow the use of it in the operating budget the following year. So we're making sure we have the money before we spend the money.
Makes sense.
Remind me, the school transportation savings, is that because they went to two routes? I think I've asked this question, I forget the answer.
I don't have the expenditure report. I'd have to table that question, because
Okay.
that was,
And I think that was the year they went from
I think
3
it
routes
was.
to 2 routes, and put the kids from kindergarten of 5 in one bus and 6 to grade 12 in the other. I think that's what it was.
I'm thinking that was the same year,
Okay.
but I don't.
So that savings is going away technically, too, so.
Yep.
Or will be budgeted as so, at least for the next fiscal year. Any other free cash questions? Okay. Let's move on to agenda item number 2, discuss budget process. So Matt, Jean, and I met mid-December, early December, I want to say, it was a while ago now. Just talk about the budget. We wanted to give Matt kind of an explanation of how we've done it here in the past, get his thoughts on how he would like it going forward. Generally, he was of the mind he'd kind of like to see how we did it for one cycle and go from there. I know since then, he's had some discussions with the Board of Selectmen about implementing a 5-year projection as well. So I believe Jean has the memo that went out to the departments. Is
This,
that correct?
actually, I will give you a copy of the general memo that went out. Each department head received a pretty detailed packet. I think what Matt's trying to do is get a history of what's happened, as well as what Ryan said, we're gonna be going out 5 years. His memo was pretty detailed. He asked questions that was specific to the department that you were in. So he created an Excel spreadsheet, and actually I probably threw a little wrench in there because I had my 17 actual instead of 18 actual, so he'll find that out tomorrow or tonight when he hears it, so that was my fault. But it shows the current year, go 5 years forward, as well as a couple years back. So he's looking for a trend analysis, and he's asking for detail as to why some accounts have changed. And he asked specific questions for your relative department. I know for mine, he was asking questions on OPEB and stabilization balance, which we had transferred out last year, the MTBE money, which we fell below our 5% mark, so I think we're gonna be putting money back into stabilization for that account as well. But I think you'll find it's a little more detailed, and part of that is he's trying to get the narrative. You know, what is the story, what's the history, and have the department heads have a chance to explain that, as well as, my interpretation is he wants a departmental request, not a level fund. He's not telling us the level fund, he wants to know truly what the departmental request would be, reasonably. And then we're gonna start from there.
Okay.
Now, if we underfund the retirement, right? We have-
OPEB?
Yeah, thanks, OPEB. Is there a time frame on when we have to make that up, or is it just by the time we're supposed to be caught up, we?
We'll never be caught up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's mixed reviews. I told somebody I attended a conference in November, and the beginning of the conference, they said, don't bother funding, your number's so large, you're never gonna reach it. And the end of the conference, the next person said, don't listen to that presentation, you need to put something towards it. I think what you find is most communities are in the same situation that we are. Douglas has been able to put, we've been budgeting $50,000 at the annual town meeting each year, and we've tried to do an analysis on the health insurance account to put some money towards it in the fall.
So what are the repercussions of?
Right now, there are none, because I think the bonding agencies are looking that we are putting money in.
So as of now, they're not putting any restrictions on it,
Not right now.
because people are being somewhat responsible about it.
Right, I would not go below what we're doing.
Right.
I would not recommend that.
I just didn't know if there was a rule or a law that said if we needed to catch up if we underfunded it by a certain time frame.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, I did ask that question to the auditor because I'm a resident of Uxbridge and their town manager had said it had to be fully funded by a certain year, and I forget what year, so I called the auditors and said, have you heard this? And they said no, because I was in panic mode that night, thinking we're never gonna get there.
You don't think we can find 19 million, Gene?
Yeah, so, but I haven't heard anything, but again, we are showing some effort. We are putting money away.
I think downside if we stopped doing that was the bond agencies would not look on that
Correct,
favorably, so.
correct.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on what we see here? I know we're just looking at it here for the first time. Do we expect that budget presentations can be done in a couple of weeks? Matt, the email told me that was his hope, I don't know.
Matt did put a deadline of January 17th.
Okay.
We do expect the House 1 numbers out mid-January.
Okay.
We are hoping to get the health insurance numbers by the end of January. The Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment should be out by next week. Those are some of our bigger numbers. I
Okay.
did ask Courtney for school transportation. Again, that's a fixed figure.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do, and it's still under some discussion, but I want to get to the point where we can get the fixed cost and the additional revenue and figure out what the available additional revenue would be to the split.
Okay. So, the reason I'm asking is, so our meeting in 2 weeks, do we anticipate, are we unsure if we're gonna have, ideally, we're supposed to meet on the 23rd and 30th. Ideally, I'd like a couple budget presentations in each, just in case the snow gets us, that sort of thing. I'm not sure they're gonna be ready, that's my question.
Well, I think we can have departments present.
Departments, yeah.
You won't have the full.
No,
You won't
I-
have your budget.
No, as we've done in the
probably.
past, but
Yeah.
departments, so,
And we can try to have that. So you're meeting the 23rd and the 30th?
that is currently on our schedule, yes. There's 5 Tuesdays, so I thought we'd snag the 5th Tuesday just to kind of get rolling on it, and,
So we'll see if we can get some budgets. Can I
Okay.
email you?
sure,
to see?
sure, and whatever's in the best shape, I don't have any real need to prioritize. Can we get Dr. Fitzpatrick on this? Would you mind reaching out to Dr. Fitzpatrick and getting him on the schedule, probably for one of the 2 in February?
I think that may be early for him.
Okay, well,
I think he's typically doesn't he usually go in the March
he may.
with the schools? I can
yeah.
request it, but I think it may be
Okay,
early.
or if he wants to do the second Tuesday of March, that's fine too. I just see sometimes his
Maybe.
schedule's a little harder, although he has been every year, sometimes his schedule is tough to match up with ours. so.
I'd love to see him in February, because that's a fixed cost for me, so if you can get in that early, that would be great.
That would be great. So finally, in that regard, we talked a little bit in the fall and in June. I would like to invite every department to come. I'm not sure we need every department to come. Is that a message that should go through you? Do you want me to put a letter together inviting? How do you think we should go about that?
No, I think, and I can, again, talk with Matt about this, I think a couple of years ago, I put together a schedule where I scheduled out your meetings
Okay,
for you. If you want every department to come, then I'll just schedule them out.
okay.
If you give me the dates of the meetings, then
Yeah.
I'll fill in the schedule for you, because we
Okay.
can contact them during the day.
Okay. Is that how the board feels? Would we like to meet with every department? Last year, we kind of met with the bigger ones. One of my concerns is I did hear in a couple other meetings that, hey, we didn't meet with finance, they never asked us to come, so I don't necessarily think we need to meet with everybody, but I would like to invite everybody, just so that message has been sent. I don't know, what are the thoughts?
I've been on the board 2 years before this year.
Yeah?
And 2 years ago, my first year, we met with everybody. And last year, we didn't meet with too many. I much preferred meeting with everybody. I thought it was fairer to each board, each group, rather, each committee. That's my opinion.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting listening to what they're doing too.
Yeah, I kinda think so too.
Okay. This side of the table, anybody? That work for everybody?
I'd rather, yeah, I'd rather
Okay,
hear all
it's
of
your
it.
first go around, so that'll probably be helpful for
Okay.
you. Okay, yeah, so if you can try to schedule everybody, that would be great.
So do you have the list of dates? Is it,
So it was the 23rd and the 30th. And then the second and fourth Tuesdays of February and March, at least tentatively. And, you know, we can try to add the meeting. I guess I can bring up my calendar. It's an old email.
The 23rd and 30th, you're
Yeah, so,
back to back.
yes, because there's 5 Tuesdays, so I thought,
Take advantage of that
yes, because
situation.
last year we had a snowstorm in January, we had a snowstorm in February, it was like late February, we hadn't met with anybody yet, so,
Yeah, we got a lot of storms last year.
I was trying to kind of
Cut back.
avoid that,
Right.
so 23rd and 30th of January, the 13th and 27th of February, the 13th and 27th of March is just, and, you know, I threw this out, I believe, last month, just to kind of get some things on the calendar, and then, you know, if we need to meet 3 times a week, you know, third time in March or third time in February, we can adjust for that. I'm not sure exactly what the time frame is for the finalization of the budget and the message and all that stuff in early April, so.
Gene, I am going to be conflicted out on February 27th. And so I would ask if we can not schedule Dr. Fitzpatrick for that day.
What was February again? You said 13th?
Right, it's Tuesday, the second and
So
fourth.
you would like to be present for that presentation?
Correct, and that's the
Oh,
one day I would not be
no.
able to be.
Okay.
I'm looking at the thing, I got 13 and
Yeah,
27.
Oh,
13th.
I'm looking at the wrong year. 2018.
Yeah,
folks.
so, yes, so it's fine, just, maybe you want to just, I doubt he'll be ready the second, why don't you just invite him for the, one of the 2 March meetings then?
I'll see if he's either February 13th or March 13th. I'll give him that option.
Okay.
So, the 6th and the 13th, so you said? February?
No,
No,
13th
13th
and
and
27th of February and of March.
So basically what I'm doing here, just for the basics, is the Board of Selectmen meet on the first and third Tuesdays. Gene and Matt work late on Tuesdays, so it's more convenient for them to do it Tuesday nights. If it works for our schedule, if it doesn't, we can certainly move it. So like I said, I was just trying to get a few dates on the calendar, everybody knows where we are, and then as we hit February, we'll see what the weather's like. We can certainly, if God forbid we're ahead of schedule, we can certainly cancel, but I don't anticipate that, to be bluntly honest. And like I said, we may have to add one, especially in March. The first week to week and a half in April is usually when we have the final budget, public hearing for the budget and that sort of thing, so. But we'll get to, when we have a better idea what those exact dates of when things are due and that sort of thing, we can plan those.
I'm assuming you just want the max of 2 large departments a night.
Yeah, I would think you could do 3 small, two large is fine, and I didn't, being bluntly honest, I don't know how many, I mean, if you just want to break it up among those 6 meetings fairly equally, that's fine.
I'll probably give highway first preference because they're gonna be contingent upon the snow.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit, just right in the star, there
Is
were,
there anything, any big projects going on in the budget, or anything different in the budget next year?
For FY19,
Nothing stands out.
nothing stands out, and we had quite a few we finished. You notice a little warmer in the building?
Yeah,
Yeah.
On the HVAC, and the windows are in. Those are 2, actually, this is the first time you can walk down the halls and not see the portable heaters plugged in. They are downstairs in the police department now, they put a request in.
oh, must be cold down there the
Yeah.
last couple.
Were you able to stay warm during this spell?
We did not have portable heaters, the windows are
Wow.
working great.
Wow,
Yeah.
even through
We-
what we had, which was brutal.
So the windows in the HVAC made a big difference. There are some problems with the roofs, but we had a couple bad storms in October.
We had a bad rainstorm. Those days, yeah. The gym's had a little bit of an issue, but
Yeah.
it's part of the building's been good, so.
And
On
you'll
the
notice,
on the newly finished floor?
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, the roof didn't come out exactly how we wanted it to, let's put it that way. We were looking into it further, but,
and you notice the snow blower the attachment,
Mm.
was making its way down Depot Street yesterday, so that was exciting to see.
I did see its work on Main
Yes.
Street, yes, very impressive.
So we, the capital projects that we have budgeted for, I have not seen the list for FY19, but you'll see the progress for FY18.
Good. Anything else on the upcoming budget process and where we want to go? Any thoughts? What we want to see?
I just had a question about
Sure.
free cash. I don't think in all the things I've listened to, I've ever heard, do we have a set policy for free cash and how it's used? And if so, who determines it? Do you and you and the town administrator, or the Board of Selectmen, who determines how we use free cash?
Town meeting, right?
The town?
Well, the town ultimately determines how it's used because it's voted at town meeting, but I think it's part of the budget process, and I think it's a combination of the town administrator, my position, as well as the board. I think there's.
Because I know I've heard Board of Selectmen that have one view on how it's supposed to be used, and an opposing view on how it's supposed to be used. Like one kind of like pocket money, free cash is like pocket money, and another one is potentially budgeting it, as in kind of not.
Kind of keeping the taxes down, is that what you mean, budgeting it?
No, as in planning for it, planning it, how to use it, as opposed to just kind of just using it as you go along, basically.
I think you'll find that the general consensus across the board is that you should use free cash for non-reoccurring expenditures.
Okay.
With that said, we are prudently conservative on our receipts side,
Mhm.
so I don't feel uncomfortable using some part of free cash for the operating budget the following year. Again, making sure that we have the money before we spend the money. What I
just
would
didn't know.
not wanna see happen is have the estimated receipts pushed to the limit
Mm.
and then say, we're gonna use free cash. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
I think last year was a tough year. There was some tough discussions, and the fact that we went from a $500,000 use of free cash for the operating budget to $600, I think caused some people some concern.
Okay.
Gene, this is only the amount certified as excess free cash from fiscal year '17, right? There's also a reserve fund, or
The
there's also.
stabilization account?
Is that just the savings, if you will?
Yes.
The town savings account?
Now, generally, you never use stabilization.
I understand, but in other words, this isn't
Yes.
all the free cash the town has.
Well, this is all the free cash, this isn't all the savings the town has.
Yeah,
So the,
okay.
so the town
Free
does have
cash
a.
from the last fiscal year.
There's still other monies in a piggy
Yeah,
bank.
yeah,
Correct.
exactly. Well
Correct.
put.
Yeah, and that's the one I
Yeah.
spoke about, where we did transfer money to purchase the land, for the water sewer department, but it was money that that came from the MTBE settlement, back a number of years ago, that they used to help fund that.
Roughly what's in the stabilization account?
You're killing me.
Yeah, I know you don't like those questions, forget it, withdrawn.
Six figures?
Got it.
Well,
It's
Five
like-
figures?
Never mind.
It's
Never
over
mind.
$1 million.
Yeah,
so
never
let's-
mind, I won't
The
even put
state-
you on record
the
that
state,
far.
Puts a limit on how much you can put into the
Yeah, yeah.
stabilization fund anyway, right? I mean, obviously, we never get up to that limit,
We are
but,
not, yeah, we are not at that limit.
but they do have a limit on what percentage you can put into the stabilization fund.
That I don't know. I will email you the balance in the stabilization tomorrow, but it is over $1 million.
Gene, as we head toward our fiscal 19 budget for July 1, 18 through June 30, 19, that's the budget we'll work on the next couple months. I see in front of me specific numbers from you for free cash and a line item, I guess I'm going backwards a little. State assessment, school choice out, 106,405. What is that for, if you will, last year? That's a negative number. What is that?
It means, well, what happens with school choice now is it's part of the cherry sheet, so they tell me in July what the school choice assessment will be for FY18.
Yeah,
They do an analysis. In June, they balance that account.
yeah,
And they look at the actuals.
yeah.
We were the assessment was $106,000 over what they said the assessment was going to be.
Are you able to say tonight, was that a result of us having more kids school choicing out than
I will
school
let the
choice
schools
in?
speak. This has nothing to school choice in. Remember, they're not net.
That's kind of what I was trying to understand tonight. Yeah,
So-
I don't remember that they're.
Okay, the school choice in goes into a separate revolving account that
Okay.
can be spent without appropriation
Got it.
by the school.
Thank you.
So they get to keep that.
Got it.
The assessment gets assessed to the
Got it.
town.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Is that an unusually large difference in the estimate and the actual?
From our recent, yes, from
Recent
our
years.
recent years, it is large,
Yeah.
which is why it's highlighted here.
Anything else on the 19 budget and our approach to tackling it? No? Okay. Number 3, discuss letter from BVT regarding increased enrollment. So in your packet, after the free cash information, is a letter from Dr. Fitzpatrick to Mr. Wojcik, our town administrator, basically stating that essentially we're netting another 15 students going to BVT in terms of our enrollment data for the upcoming budget. So that is in there. I also included something I had from last year on budget time, which was the previous 6 years in our enrollment in BVT. And then following that, Pam had shown some interest in a discussion on the famous Dynamic Douglas on Facebook about the enrollment policies and how they exactly choose it. So there is some information from BVT and Dr. Fitzpatrick. Nothing we haven't heard here in meeting with him before, but just kind of confirmation of how many from each town their policy in terms of how many from each town they take, et cetera, et cetera. So that is kind of an FYI. I don't know if we want to, discuss that at all. It looks like
I do.
you do, okay. Let me just say before that, so with the increase in 15 students, that's ballpark, 50,000 more out of the budget we're gonna have to find to fund that for this upcoming fiscal year. I'll pass it over to Howard.
Gene, you're the only one in the hot seat tonight. I'm sorry.
I know, why is that, do you think?
Gene, you gave us an email. Somehow I got an email. Is this right from you? Came in our packet? 19018.
I believe Brian gave you that email.
But it's from you.
I was trying to get clarification from the school regarding.
Yeah, no, that's not when the email was sent. That's your printer, or my printer function. That's when I printed it.
Good point.
So it was last fall, last
Okay.
October, November, or September, it looks like.
Okay.
The
So,
Dynamic Douglas printout was sent to me. So
Yeah.
I attempted to contact BVT, and if you notice that in my questions, I wasn't getting the answer to the question I was asking, so I was re-asking it a little, like I did with my teenagers, I guess. Re-asking the question a different way to get the answer. So I was merely trying to get the answer to the question about, was there a cap on the number of students that BVT would take from the town of Douglas?
Is this from you, from a discussion with BVT?
No,
No.
this was a snapshot of a Dynamic
it's a
Douglas.
post on Dynamic Douglas.
Oh,
Do we
and-
have that in our package?
And
Yeah, it's the
who's-
last-
And who's it from? Do we know?
I believe that was, Pam has cut that out as a response from Mr. Yacino, an unofficial response from Mr. They were just two town residents discussing the BVT issue on Dynamic Douglas. That is-
Okay.
So Pam sent it to Gene and I and said, hey, can we get clarification on that?
Okay.
I respectfully ignored it. Gene took it. Gene was more respectful
All right,
and
all right.
went back
So-
and forth with BVT on it.
So this is not in any way whatsoever anybody's official position.
No.
Right, no.
And so an official position comes to us It looks like it says it's BVT, it's on letterhead, it's BVT letterhead, it's signed by Dr. Fitzpatrick, it's the superintendent director. So for the town of Douglas, because it's written to Matt Wojcik,
Oh, that's,
right?
So
The
that's, so
October
that's the,
26th letter.
that's the letter. So those are two different documents, you understand?
I do,
Okay.
I do.
All right, just
So the
clarify.
letter would seem to be Blackstone Valley Tech's official position on this issue, correct?
The
No,
intent
I-
of, yeah, the intent of the letter is to inform the town that we're gonna owe BVT some more funding this year, because there's been an increase in enrollment, just a heads up.
All right.
I think
So-
the email dated 9/1 is.
Email dated 9/1.
So this last thing in your agenda, that is an email chain,
Mhm.
so, you know, it starts in the back, and then moves
Okay.
forward. So it
Yeah.
started with Pam's post.
Yeah.
She asked Jean and I to look into it. Jean took the ball. She sent it to BVT. BVT responded. She again followed up. Dr. Fitzpatrick responded in an email.
All right.
And I
But
think they went back
my,
and forth one more
my
time.
point is, the official, I can take it out of the packet because it's a single document.
Yes.
This document dated October 26, 2017, from Dr. Michael F. Fitzpatrick, Superintendent Director, to Matthew Wojcik, Town Administrator, is the official position of our vendor, Blackstone Valley Tech, as to what their ability is to pull students from the surrounding towns, the participating towns, correct?
Oh, no, he has an email right here where he details it.
No,
Well, I
this
can't
is-
do better than letterhead.
No, but
That's-
this.
that's an
this
opinion.
one here
That's a
is-
written opinion.
This is really just telling us where we stood in FY 17 and the beginning of 18.
Okay.
This is just saying, you know what, you have
How
more.
how do I, as a member of the finance committee, get some of the $7,000 unspent town council, $7,076.71, fiscal 017, underspent? How do I get town council to give us a legal opinion on town council letterhead as to the accuracy of this letter? Because I'm getting pretty frustrated with 57 different answers to the question as to how BVT pulls kids from our town. And it seems to me that I've got finance committee people who have different perceptions, I have town administrators who have different perceptions, I have, you know, members of the Board of Selectmen who have different perceptions. And we're a town, this is a almost 7-figure per year budget item. And I would spend a little bit of money getting a legal opinion on a lawyer's letterhead as to whether or not this document there's no way around it. It's on Blackstone Valley Tech letterhead signed by the director. I want to know if this is accurate.
I believe this is accurate, but this is just telling you where we stand today. That's all this is telling you.
This
There's-
letter is,
That's not all it's telling me. It's telling me how he believes he's entitled to pull kids.
No, that
Where
was,
does it
that was
say
in the
that?
email.
I understand that that's in the email. If we need to expand the opinion, the email is from him. Let's see if the email is accurate. Everybody that's been on this committee since I've been on it for some time, we don't talk about it specifically or directly. We have concerns about what I view as essentially a politicalization of the positions we get from our vendor. And I would like to, I think it's important, I think it's important to get a legal opinion as to what that process is, so that everybody in this town who sits on a board, who has decision-making to affect those budget items, has the same opinion, legal opinion, as to what is accurate from BVT. And I just don't feel like in 3 years, 4 seasons now, I don't feel like I've got that. So Gene, I guess you're the only one here tonight. I can wait. I want it to be an official request. I want to.
I'm not sure what your question is.
I
Wouldn't that
I don't
come from
see,
the-
can I ask, where
Sure.
inside this letterhead from Dr. Fitzpatrick, are you referencing that he outlines his methodology for selecting students.
Michael,
Or
I
did
apologize.
Did I mishear that?
No, I misspoke. You're correct. It's in the email. Carol's correct. Responding to her inquiry about whether there is a cap or minimum. This is a fantastic analysis from him. And frankly, you're correct. It's not on his letterhead. So why don't we find out what the deal is? It wouldn't be the first vendor ever that had a different interpretation of $1 million a year annual contract from the party that they're providing the service to. I want to know what that relationship is. And if I thought that we were getting, wholesale consistent interpretations, then I wouldn't ask. But I've had enough. Before Dr. Fitzpatrick comes in here in March, I'd really like to have our lawyer tell me what our town believes is the answer to that question, not what Dr. Fitzpatrick thinks is the answer. And I'd like to know if our town's lawyer thinks that it's consistent with what our vendor is telling us.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to get off on a
No.
tangent on it, but
So here would be my suggestion. I'm not sure, I don't quite understand, I don't know if Gene does either, what exactly I get a general sense of what you're
Yeah.
getting at, but
Yeah.
not specifically what you're
Yeah.
getting at. So why don't you put an email together, send it to Matt, CC Gene and I.
Sure.
This is kind of the issues, specifically what I'd like the town administrator.
Yeah, you bet.
And, if Matt agrees, he can go ahead and ask for that, our attorney's opinion, and we can discuss at the next meeting, or if he doesn't, we can discuss why at the next meeting. Would that be?
well, getting an opinion is a budgetary event. Getting a legal opinion is something that can cost a little bit of money.
Matt does authorize any,
He's got an ability to, at a certain point.
he's the one that authorizes anybody to contact council.
Okay,
So
so
it
he's
has
got
to go
some
through the town
flexibility
administrator.
to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get
This-
that email out tomorrow and I'll
Okay.
copy everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the second year we received a letter like this.
Yeah, yeah,
Saying
I-
that,
you know.
the enrollment was higher than what
What's
he's.
going on?
What he's doing is he's putting us on notice that
Yeah.
it's gonna be higher the following year.
And everything he says may be accurate. I'd just like to have everybody have a comfort level that that's the case.
That same thought went through my head when I read this, is why does he dance around us? And why doesn't the lawyer?
It's
look-
our
take a look?
job, it's our job to
Yeah.
find out if, to understand the relationship of our vendor.
So you have the 55, 60-year-old agreement, is that correct? Do you have,
Yeah,
you
I
have a
do.
copy of that? Okay.
But
I
it's
just
not
wanna
my
make sure.
job to offer that opinion, I
No,
can't.
no, I'm just wanted to make
I
sure.
have an
okay,
opinion,
yeah.
but I'm not gonna offer it.
I just wanted to make sure you had that. I'm not sure. Is anyone else interested? You new members, would you be interested in the agreement from, is it 1960, 19?
How far
62?
back is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
62.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we put that online? Is that
I've also
online?
got him on record saying that they don't currently operate under the terms of the original agreement.
All right, so I will send that out. I have that electronically. I'm not sure if Pam got it online or not, but I know that was one of her goals at some point. Send out to committee.
Seems the more trouble we give him, the more kids come from Douglas, doesn't it?
Well, that's a different issue entirely.
But
Yeah.
saying
That's an
not
issue
true.
of,
No, but there are more kids applying too. That's the other thing.
that's on us.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we need
That's
to do within
entirely
the
on
town
us.
to,
and-
It's due to a lot of circumstances. I don't know.
provide a product that nobody wants to go away from.
I also think we're not competing. I've said that before, and I think we need to provide parents at the 8th grade level better information.
Okay.
I think what bothers me is that these kids go there, and then they don't go into the trades that they're going there for. This,
Or I've known students that have gone there as a freshman, they make them try out for a couple different
right,
fields.
right.
And maybe their top pick, they don't get into
Yeah.
that program
Yeah.
and they get into a subsequent one and the kid
Yeah.
says, well, I'm already here, I'm not gonna
You're
go back to
done. You're
Douglas
done.
because
Yeah.
I'm already 2 months into the school year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but it's not what they intended to go for, it's not what their heart wanted to go for.
I asked him one time, I said, tell me how many you got the plumbing thing, how many plumbers do you have? Well, let's see, well, one went for criminal justice, the other one went into the military, and the other one is going to Nichols College, but he's gonna have his own plumbing business after. I said, he's gonna get out with $100,000 worth of student loans, and he's gonna be, what do they call it, apprentice for 5 years at basically minimum wage to become a plumber. Yeah, right. Tell me another story.
But those are things I think we should start to address. It's the beginning of the year.
Yep.
It's the beginning of the process. I'd like to have it. It's a substantial amount of revenue, and I think there are ways to try to keep more of those kids here.
Well, let me
Okay,
ask you a question. Do you want to wait until his budget's completed? Do you want him at the start of the budget season?
Later.
I would say later, because we're only gonna likely get one opportunity to speak with them.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids,
I don't know that I find his information at the meetings to be,
change
to
anything.
substantially change what our jobs are. How, you know, it's useful, but it's not particularly a two-way dialogue.
It's gonna be the same
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
as last
Yeah.
year. the
What
year
road,
before.
what road does it lead us down, I guess, would be, I don't have a problem with it, I'm just wondering, say our lawyer comes back and says, oh no, he's totally misinterpreting it. And he sticks, Dr. Fitzpatrick sticks to his guns, and then you would end up in a legal battle, wouldn't you?
Well, if you're talking about $200,000 a year.
No, I get it, I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
where ultimately it would
Well,
lead, correct?
Any contract you've got, if somebody's, interpreting it a little more flexibly than you want, you've got to make a determination whether you want to bring them back in.
yeah, the other issue would be we approve his budget every year. There's 13 towns, I believe, 13
Yeah, yeah.
towns, so 9 of them have to approve his budget.
Oh,
If he doesn't get 9, he's gotta come back with so that would be another.
oh, okay.
2 years ago, we didn't approve his budget, we were the only one of the 13.
I think we did
that's
that
a
2 years, I think we
different-
did that 2 years in a row, actually. We didn't last year, but we did 2 years in a row.
Maybe.
Not just a small amount.
That's a different issue, though, to me, Mike, right?
Yeah.
Than how we address internally, having the kids and the parents get more information. Carol's point, where are the kids going? Your point, the kids that go in the wrong slot. My objection has always been, I think there are a lot of kids in 8th grade that parents think their kids are gonna get into better colleges or have better opportunities because the school sits here and says, the return on investment is that we have the highest test scores, and I don't view that as the return on the investment. I think that is
mean,
the investment.
My goal is, I think what we have going on is there's a lot of people that are looking over the fence to see if there's greener pastures. My goal would be to make our pastures so
Yeah,
great, there's
yeah.
no need, there's no curiosity to look over the
Yeah,
fence and see
yeah.
if there's anything else.
I want the
You know.
trade kids going to the trade school,
Right.
and the college-bound kids going to the college-bound school.
Right.
And
And
the
right
problem-
now, BVT tries to get the college-bound kids to the trade school so that the testing scores in 10th grade are higher, and we can name an auditorium after ourselves. And I'm troubled by that.
And my thing is that the kids that really belong in the trade schools not getting into it.
That's correct, that's right.
And
Carol.
they're not providing the people that are in it, it's the
Yeah,
average,
yeah.
the average electrician and plumber is like close to 60 years old today, and there's nobody coming up behind them.
But
you know?
people have to be prepared to take on a battle. And if you're not, you're gonna get beaten, because somebody else is.
Okay. Unless anyone objects, I think we've got through that, so we'll move forward and on. We have any reserve fund transfers, Jean?
We do not.
Okay. Do you need me to review any expenditure voucher? Did I sign anything? It's been so long.
I did actually print out a report because I don't remember when you took over as the sole signature. We took a vote that allowed you to authorize, the board allowed you to authorize the approval of the expenditures before being paid. So I will read through them just to make sure we're covered. On the law, we have to present the following meeting what Ryan has approved on behalf of the board.
It would have been November,
I'm sorry?
October 10th?
October, I think.
October 10th.
October, I think it's when we
Thank
approved
you.
it.
So on 11/22, we had a payroll of $11.53. On 11/22, we paid the Alpha Graphics, and that was for the printing of the Finance Committee flyer. And before that, we had the postmaster, but that was on 9/27, 5/27/31, and 180 for your annual dues.
Okay. All right. Meeting minutes. I am not getting the meeting minutes. Am I supposed to be asking for them? Like, I don't think we've approved any of the fall meetings.
No,
Is
you
M-
should be getting them.
Is Mary supposed to, is Suzanne, who should I be reaching out to?
Mary.
Mary, okay. So I will do that and try to get us some meeting minutes, because I don't think we've approved anything for the fall.
Did we have any in your packet?
No.
We didn't.
No, I haven't, I have not seen anything since we cleaned up the ones from last spring, so. I will reach out to Mary and see if we can figure out what the issue is there. Old business?
I'm just gonna run to my office and, we did go over the snow and ice appropriation, and Matt did approve it, and I just wanna notify I'm just
Sure.
gonna run and get that done.
Did you go to the new member finance committees? Do you wanna give us a couple minutes on what you saw, what you did, how much you liked it?
Not especially.
Not especially. Well, we got 2 minutes to kill till Gene comes back.
It was pretty good. Let's see, it's been so long, I forgot which ones. The speaker in the morning talked about, basically gave an overview on, the governor's look down and basically your role as a finance committee. Was there lieutenant governor maybe? Was the speaker. The first one I attended was basically looking at how a finance budget is put
When you say
together.
the first one, this is one of the workshops, so
Yeah.
typically what happens when you go to one of these things is an opening speech for half
Yeah,
hour, 40
basically,
minutes.
you come in, you sign up, then you go and sit in the main room auditorium, and they give you welcoming. They do their introductions to members of their committee. I think they had an election too, or voted somebody in as well. They give a little background or the view of the state view on how a finance committee should operate, or any upcoming challenges. They reviewed marijuana a little bit, or rather, some people asked them about marijuana, and she kind of was, "We'll see," type of thing, because it wasn't settled out yet. And then you have you break out in sessions, and the first session I went to was explaining the budgeting process and how a municipality puts together a budget. So I basically got the background on that. And the
Do you
second.
remember what town you saw? I saw Westboro when I went to it. And I took that same route.
Started with an A.
Attleboro?
Oh, Arlington? No.
Okay.
It was a
It was
a big.
It was Northborough when I went.
It was a big A, whoever it was.
Yeah.
And then the second one was capital improvements. Basically, had a budget for them, and how to get around that process, how to initiate it in your town, how to discuss it. Oh, you had lunch in between there, which was
Yeah.
pretty good.
There you go.
So for those who have not attended, that's on a Saturday in October. It's actually pretty good. It's only $40. It's, there are definitely some issues where we're a small town, and some of the issues they're talking about are for bigger towns. But my recollection is they have the presentation, then one workshop where you get 3 choices in the morning, and then
Yep.
just
Lunch.
one in the afternoon or
No,
2.
lunch and then another 3 that you can choose from.
Yeah.
The
So-
problem was I wanted to attend in both the morning
Yeah.
and the afternoon. I had 2 that I wanted to go and see, but I had to pick.
Right, but
Lot.
it's definitely worth some money. It's good to do some network. They have breakfast, I think, beforehand too,
Yeah.
and lunch. So, when I went, I happened to meet a couple people who weren't really nearby, but were a similar town size to Douglas and similar issues. So, if you
And
get the
then
chance, I
you
would
passed
definitely
out
recommend
the manual, right?
Yep, yep.
Email to you?
Yep.
I was responsible, apparently.
Yeah,
As the Douglas
I-
representative to pass that out.
See how much they've increased. I had little CDs to pass out when I went. So. The other one you may want to attend is, I believe, in June. That's typically up at Holy Cross, which I know, where was your conference? Was it in Franklin still?
Franklin, yeah.
Yeah, Franklin, which isn't too bad of a drive, which is Holy Cross, and that's run by the Department of Finance. And it's less finance committee driven, it's more local government driven, but they do explain a lot of the policies and how they calculate things. And again, it's 6 or 7 hours, they break you up into tables. Usually a member of the Department of Finance sits with you. It's definitely worth your time. You definitely get a couple hours of stuff out of it. So, and again, that's something I want to say it was $40 or $50, and the town definitely reimburses you. So, something to think about going forward. All right, Jean, we have an update on the snow and ice.
This is as of January 8th. We've had 8 storms or 8 incidents. That doesn't have to be a plowable storm event to be classified as a storm. The budget was $135,000. Matt has approved $65,000 beyond the current approved budget. John's spending was the highway department, not just John, was at $145,789 after the 8th storm. And I thought the highway job has done a great job so far.
They have.
Yeah.
So for new members, the snow and ice line is one we can deficit spend. So we typically have that line item in the budget lower than what we should. Is it still true, Gene, once we raise that line item in the budget, we can't go back and reduce it? So we're very conservative with raising that. But at the end of the fiscal year, we're gonna have to make up the difference on how we're gonna pay for that. So.
Correct. We typically just, since I've started here, it's always my opinion that we should be paying for the bills in the year they incur. So even though you are allowed to raise it on the recap the following fiscal year, to me, it doesn't make sense because you're really just taking the money from next year's budget and bringing it into this year, and the expense happened this year. So we have an article at the special town meeting in the spring, and usually that's a transfer from free cash.
And we went from, 85 to 135 a few years ago.
We did.
And we've never thought that we had too much at 135, right?
No.
One year we came within 40 or 50,000, I
We did,
think,
we had-
of not,
Yeah,
of making
one
it,
year.
but.
We did have a good
And
year.
there was that one year with the big snowstorms.
Definitely
we
wasn't
were-
2015.
Yeah, we were a couple
Yeah, I
hundred
know.
thousand over.
No, it was
Um,
in 2017.
Okay. One more item for me. How much do you know about the Green Community Grant? We received a Green Community Grant for just under $150,000. Uh-oh, looking at her. I was just curious, how are we gonna go about spending that?
I'm gonna pass on that.
Okay.
That
Well,
question.
all right. So we will save that for the next meeting when Mr. Wojcik attends, and we can ask him
I hope
how.
everybody enjoys gas heat, because there will be no more houses built in town with oil. Everything's gotta be propane. You can't make the numbers work with, oil.
Really?
Well, you became a green community. People don't look at what they're asking for when they get these things. The efficiency numbers, well, you could go to electric heat. Electric heat will meet the efficiency numbers,
Solar.
so.
Uh,
But so
we-
everybody's gonna be having propane.
I have to say, that was a very difficult question for someone who has no experience in that area to kind of understand the ramifications. And I know we talked about it at town meeting for 20 minutes or so, but I mean, I ended up not voting at all because I had no idea what was the right answer for someone who has no expertise in that area. So.
We've talked in the last couple of years, we've had a couple of joint meetings with other committees.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on a joint meeting with the school committee in the next month?
To what issues would you be looking to discuss?
Well, for what this committee does, the school budget is by far the biggest budget.
Does that include the superintendent as well, or would we have to separately include him?
I think we could do it either way.
I'm
If
just
he's-
wondering,
yeah.
does he come automatically with the school committee, or would we have to send the invitation to him? Because I would like him here if we're gonna meet with them
Yeah.
too, so.
I don't know. Gene, do you know that school committee meeting?
I'm
Is the
sure he would
superintendent
come.
there?
I would
Yes.
expect that both him and business manager would attend.
They typically,
They do, I don't know if the invitation goes out to them separate, but I would not have one without the other.
I mean, I call it a joint meeting, it's really
Right.
just that committee, having them early as possible. Although that's the school department, I'd rather meet independently also with the school committee. One joint meeting.
Okay. And again, I'm a little unclear as what, so for those who don't know, the school committee is responsible for the school budget. We have little to no say on that. They do come in and we do talk and ask questions and that sort of thing. What will we be looking to accomplish in the school in this meeting?
What do you mean we have little to no say?
Well, we approve a number.
We approve
to
a
them.
number essentially. They approve all the
Right,
expenditures.
but isn't that true with any of the departments?
we've
Not
got-
to the same extent. We're held to the department. Our departments are broken down in more detail and by salary and expense. So we're held to each line. The school committee is budgeted one number and they can spend it
Right, I understand.
within salary and expenses, even within cost centers. So the original, and they do discuss it at meetings when they do make budget transfers.
I mean, we
but
could,
that-
we could approve them a number, the town could approve them a dollar amount, and they decide, okay, we're gonna put all this in the high school and forget the middle school and lower, you know.
Now, even
It would
Matt
behoove them
has-
to do that, but it's within their purview.
It's a little different for us. Matt has town council, selectmen, a number of budgets under him. He cannot move them from town council to selectmen on his own. So we're limited on this side. We're held more restrictive than what the school is.
Have they even started their budget process yet?
They have, as a matter of fact, they asked me for a number, and I'm not able to give them one yet because I'm waiting for some of the larger numbers to come through. A number that, they're looking from us as to what we're gonna propose for next year. We're just not at that level yet.
I know the budget subcommittee has been meeting through the fall. So, as we've discussed with the joint meetings of the selectmen and the school committee, I think there needs to be some sort of agenda as to what we're putting together. So if we have, maybe, do we wanna think about some potential, I'm not sure what we're going to talk to them about, or what other than what we talk about when they come before us and.
Well, they don't come before us.
No, the business manager and we could certainly invite them to come that night. Is that what are you looking to?
No, they're two different groups, so rather than the school, the superintendent and the department, I'm talking about the school committee.
Okay,
Historically, they've come with the chairperson from the school committee when they present the
Yeah,
budget.
I understand that. I guess earlier in the nuts and bolts of the process, if, it's still 3 years in, unclear to me, if you will, what the role of the finance committee is. And it seems to me there are some pretty open-minded, cooperative members of the school committee that you can have a single meeting where you've got a number of people that can discuss different ideas. They're not the ones with the budget either, proposing the budget, but you can, some of the things we've even addressed tonight, you can talk about a way to, I think it's some common issues that a number of people have concerns regarding that might be best addressed early in a combined discussion.
Why don't we just have a school night and invite Dr. Fitzpatrick on the same night?
Yeah, so Ryan, that's my pitch,
okay. Again, I'm happy to send the invite, but let's say it was done in the reverse, and the school committee says we'd like to have a joint meeting with the finance committee. I would say, sure, what are we gonna talk about?
yeah, sure. The
So if people.
Fiscal year 19 school budget, and one of the items would be how to
Have we
try to do a better job of addressing making the Douglas school system, in my opinion, at that 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade level, more, not actually competitive, because I think it's very competitive, but better communicated to the students and parents as to what its options are. I'd like to reduce the number from 113 to 66.
But do we get a breakout in the budget, the same as Gene said, we have line items in our town budget? Would it be advantageous for the school committee to explain their line items and their budget and their basic overview of how the business manager puts it together.
Well, there's
I
still.
mean, I've
two
listened to her
different groups, right?
presentation with the Board of Selectmen.
If I were the school committee, I wouldn't come without the school superintendent or the business manager. I think because they are on the day-to-day operational level, I just think you're gonna get both groups together, which isn't a bad
I'm
thing.
not sure I would
I'm
wanna
okay
meet
with-
without Jean either.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
You know, so that you've got, maybe when the school department comes, the school committee comes
no, I think you would extend the invitation to both the school committee and.
the same night.
The
Yeah,
same night.
that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
good with that, yeah.
So that
Yeah,
Courtney
that's
and
perfect.
Kevin
Sure.
and the school committee would.
Yeah, and the department would be coming, and the school committee members could come
Mm.
sufficient to create a quorum or not. Okay, I'm good with that.
I will say, we just gotta be a little bit careful of what our purview is, the financial interests of the town. When we get into the marketing of the school, that's really kind of a gray line, so I would just be a little cautious about how we approach that, and, like I said, I'm not sure. It's a gray line, it's not over the line, but I just want to think about how we're gonna approach that, if that's gonna be a key point of discussion. I know it's been in the joint meetings of the three boards. Not sure how well that's gone, but
Have you ever, like, personally attended one of the school committee meetings and kind of gave them your thoughts
Have.
you know, marketing themselves a little better?
Well, sure, I've been part of a couple of groups over the last couple of years where we've talked. Again, they're difficult conversations to have. Everything's public, and so you've got to be a little bit careful how you present things. But at the same time, all I'm doing here in the first week in January, second week, is trying to suggest as we start the process. It seems to have been a common, thorough, deep theme to me the last 3 or 4 years that, Ryan's talking about, it might be a gray area. I'm not so sure I think it is. I think that the ability to pull 50 kids back and save $400,000 in the budget process changes every other part of the town's budget. I think that's my job. I thought it was my job. So, my view is that you can have a discussion that might just have, I know there are people on the school committee, I know there are, that have some similar concerns and might be interested, again, with the superintendent or with the
business
manager,
manager.
committee,
or
yeah.
The school committee.
Not the committee, I'm sorry, the department, sorry. Ways that, just a few minor things that you can change from concepts that apparently, as Mike's talking about, you talk to other parents or your kids' kids, and things that you think that could be done in a way that might start to reverse the trend of the last 3 or 4 years. It's not going to happen by magic, and I don't have anybody else that I've heard with a concerted plan as to how to address the issue. So I would think we'd look to try to create that.
So the
Path.
agenda would be to discuss the line item of the the Blackstone Valley TAC.
It would actually, no, actually, to me, the view I have on it is it's how to, the opinion issue is a little different. The issue for me is how to address having the Douglas kids and parents have a better understanding of what they might get out of BVT versus what they might get out of the Douglas schools at the high school level. I know I've said a couple of years ago, my daughter is now in 10th grade, and a couple of years ago, she was just surprised that in the 8th grade, there were multiple bus trips over to BVT and one or none up to the Douglas High School. And so there was a lot of, we're competing against ourselves. And I'd like to, there's information that she said that was put, whether it was in the kids' backpacks or just presented by the principal or the superintendent, that showed, colleges and graduation rates and job rates that wasn't really getting to the kids or the parents early enough to maybe have the impact. I want to start to, it's not advertising or marketing, it's just providing information to, Dr. Fitzpatrick says the return on the investment. I believe that all our parents and all our kids, they're making the investment. And I think it's incumbent on this town and its boards and its people to give those kids and parents who have done that hard work a little more information about what the options are. I don't think they're getting it entirely. And I know that can offend people in our school system who think that they are giving it. I'm just trying to have an open-minded discussion about it.
Okay, we will go ahead and invite,
To ask a question.
we will go ahead and invite them the night we have them. Anything else, new business?
Gene, could you possibly do a quick rundown of that mobile land? What happened with that?
With the closing,
Yeah.
Buckeye or something,
I'm sorry?
isn't it Buckeye or something that you
Yes,
bought it from?
we closed on it at the end of December.
For how much?
400,000.
Just under 400,000.
Yeah, it was just under 400,
And it goes to the water and sewer, right?
yes.
It came out of their,
Yeah, I would,
That was the money I was speaking about earlier, the
Okay.
MTV money which came out of stabilization and return.
which, was it 2 town meetings ago we approved that?
Yeah,
So I would, if you're really interested, I would go back to we had a long 25-minute discussion about that.
November, I wanna say November 16, right? Was it a fall town meeting? Or was it the spring?
I thought it was 2 springs ago, but
I was just
I'm
curious
not
what the
sure.
price.
Yeah,
It was, it closed for whatever that town meeting was.
Okay.
but we
It
met
was
with the
pretty
water
close.
department, he gave the rationale on why we should do it, and
Yeah.
what the needs are if you're really interested.
Yeah, and I know we just closed on it before December 31st.
Okay. Thank you.
If nothing else, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Motion made by Mike, seconded by Eric. All in favor?
I
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, folks.